Coming up on TekThing, does 3D printing still suck? We got a review of the LulzBot Taz 6 3D printer, Dell's new Ultrathin monitors. Let's talk Ryzen 2000, Quad 9 DNS, backing up your disks, and quite a bit more. It's all coming up on TekThing. Thank you, patrons. Without your support via patreon.com/TekThing, we wouldn't be able to make the show for you each and every week. Join the crew that makes TekThing possible at patreon.com/TekThing.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every single show.
Especially today.
Yeah, we have a lot of useful stuff in today's episode.
Oh my goodness. We talk a lot about backing up. Mm-hmm. We talk a lot about turning on two-factor authentication on all the websites and services you use.
One of my favorite things.
Oh my goodness. Because it makes it harder to steal you or your stuff, or steal from you, or steal from you while stealing your stuff. In any case, in honor of a friend who can hear this right now, let us remind you, before your phone gets stolen and you get locked out of everything that you have 2FA applied to, take some time to print out some Google Authenticator backup codes, because it's really hard to replace your lost phone when you can't log into Gmail.
Very true.
So if you go to myaccount.google.com/security/sign-in-option/2-step.verification, no, 2-step-verification, you'll get this page, and you'll want to scroll down. Right, there's the Authenticator app, there's my phone number, which hopefully is grayed out, and then there's this thing that says backup codes. And you can get a set of codes, print them out, and cut them. I personally love having half of them at home and half of them at work, unless I'm working with people I don't trust, in which case I would not put any of them at work. Look around your coworkers right now.
I keep mine in a biometric safe.
Really?
Yeah.
Right next to your pistol?
Yep. Pretty much. Like the secure things in the biometric safe.
Oh my goodness.
Which is bolted down and nobody can steal.
If you think you used a bunch of the codes, generate a fresh set of codes. I'm not going to generate a fresh set of codes right now, because then I will have to replace my little printouts that are stashed away in super secret locations.
Alternatively, you can also use an app like Authy, which allows you to download your codes and have a backup password that will connect to your phone number. So if you ever get your phone stolen or anything like that, you can just download the app again, put in your backup password, and authenticate with your phone number, and then it will give you back all those 2FA codes again. So there are options. Just make sure that you consider them before something happens to the phone, because it's a headache. It's a huge headache. I've been there, and it sucks.
And it hurts. So know that there are ways around losing your phone or your device.
Yeah.
Just do it before the terrible accident, like backing up, before you lose your data.
Exactly.
Before you lose your data.
And also, I think that it's time to talk about 3D printers.
Must we?
Yes, we should. So my first 3D printer was this DIY build-it-yourself printer bot from 2013 or so, just around that time. It was basically a terrible experience, and it wasn't consumer-friendly at all. You know, I had to build the entire thing by hand, and it was a little scary.
Was that the one that was basically cut out of wood?
Yeah, it was.
So in its defense, it was incredibly inexpensive at the time.
Yes, it was.
And it was almost impossible to print thing in it. Because
it was.
You were torn between, like, I have a thing!
Yes.
I can't do anything with the thing.
And something that I want to mention, too, is a lot of the printers that we had back in the day, they were the same case scenario. Like, they weren't very good prints, but it was the beginning of the 3D printer market. So the bed was never leveled, or the temperature varied up and down, and you couldn't really get it to stay a certain temperature for a long period of time.
I also gotta say, like, some of the reputable 3D printers from manufacturers that are, you know, moderately well reviewed. Yeah. Like, we had two at the old warehouse, and I spent 3 months trying to get one to print.
That's true, you did.
And eventually we did get a print.
Eventually.
Well, it was funny because it turned out they did a short run, but the firmware changed, and you had to reflash it to the old firmware to get it to print on the.
Yeah, it's a headache.
Yeah.
And not even mentioning that, but like, I would have issues with the extruder. The extruder would get clogged up. These are all just different things that you don't want to deal with when you're trying to do 3D prints. I also had to use like painter's tape all the time and hairspray, which sometimes you still do have to use for specific types of filaments, but luckily it's not that bad nowadays. So I was wondering, like, what's the thing that you can get in 3D printers nowadays? Which brings me to the LulzBot Taz 6, which is a $2,500 3D printer, and you can find that over at lulzbot.com. This was sent to me from LulzBot for a 3D printer series on Hack 5 with my friend Dave Randolph, who works over at a company called PrintedSolid.com. So we did a whole little educational series, and it was very, very fun.
So David, so on PrintedSolid.com, they sell supplies for 3D printers. David's got like a warehouse with pretty much every 3D printer manufactured because he wants to know what happens when some crazy new filament comes in and he runs it through all of the machines. So this is his choice. Like if you have the money, this is his pick for a badass 3D printer.
Yeah, when I was talking to him, he was like, you should get this one. Like if you have the money for it, you should probably get this one. So I really wanted to learn about it and be like, okay, well, for $2,500, what do I get with that cost? Obviously, it's high-end, so you get things like super cool auto-leveling, which the Taz 6 was the first one from LulzBot to do that. It's also super fast, and it can create high-quality prints as opposed to just having like a mainstream average type of print quality. The temperature is very constant. The printer bed requires very little upkeep. You just basically have to wipe it with some isopropyl alcohol between prints, and then you're ready to go. And that basically just gets off the oil or lotions off of your hands whenever you're trying to pry up your old 3D prints, which can cause your prints to come off of the printer bed, so you want to make sure that you get rid of those kind of oils and gross stuff from your hands. Dirt is not good. It's not fun.
And that's one of the things that kind of, you know, the rising tide floats all boat. Better technology has kind of elevated the quality from almost everybody's printer.
It has. So of course, this is just a review of the Taz 6, but there's a lot of really good printers out there right now. I just haven't got my hands on them. So the print area for the Taz 6 is 280 millimeters by 280 millimeters, so a nice little square, and 250 millimeters. And the volume of usable space is 19,600 cubic centimeters. That's really big for a home use 3D printer.
Yeah.
That's very large. It can print up to 200 millimeters per second, but it defaults around 30 to 50 millimeters if that's what you're going for. So if you do a high quality print, it will print much slower. If you do something that's low quality, it can print up to that 200 millimeters per second. And it does come with a 0.5 millimeter nozzle extruder, which can be replaced depending on your needs. So if you need something that's a lot more thin, you can totally go for that. So if you need detailed thin lines, go for that smaller nozzle. If you just need faster prints, like if you're doing a bunch of just random stuff, you can go with a wider nozzle, and it doesn't really matter. The rest of the specs you can find over at the Taz 6 homepage, linked in the show notes. There's a lot of specs, so I didn't really want to list them all in the show, but those are the important ones I wanted to mention.
So the short rule of thumb with 3D printing is the faster the print for a given print, the crappier it looks.
Right, exactly.
And if you want something to look awesome, it takes significantly longer to print it out.
Yes, exactly. And you're going to notice a huge change in that. For example, I had a couple of prints that I had printed out. This little one was average quality, but it's a lot smaller. And you can see the layers in here, but they came out quite well. This took about 2 hours to print. This larger one, which was also average quality, but much bigger space that it was printing, this one took about 4 hours to print total. So there is a big difference just with the default, depending on the size of your print.
So for those of you who a couple of years ago were reading maybe advertising from a manufacturer, it was like, you'll be able to go to this place and print out the children's toys. It'll be magical. Just remember, this is 4 hours.
Yeah, it takes a while.
at an average kind of mild print level.
Right, yeah.
So it's not like, you know, you're going to hit the buttons and the kids are going to be like reading into the, what's the thing that instantly make things in the sci-fi, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's not quite like Star Trek, but I'm hoping to get there one day because I really want my Earl Grey tea.
Hot.
Do
you need a computer to run this, or can you just stuff an SD card into it?
That's a good question. And one of my favorite things about it is that it includes a 4 gig SD card just ready to go, and it has some ready to print G-code sample models on it. So you can just plug this little SD card into your computer, ramp up some G-codes, save them onto the SD card, stick it in the 3D printer, and you're off to go. And it luckily has this little screen on it, so you can just navigate through all the different G-code samples that you have and choose the one you want to print. And it takes all the settings that you had saved in your computer and puts them over onto the printer. So you don't have to leave your computer plugged in overnight or anything.
For the people in the audience staring at the screen right now going, G-code?
G-code.
Is that a Google thing?
Yeah, it sounds like it. It's basically the type of code that 3D printers understand to develop models into a real 3D space.
The set of instructions.
A set of instructions, basically. So it comes with like the temperature settings that it needs to be at, how much filler is inside of the 3D print. It tells you what the print quality needs to be, all those different settings.
Lots of X and Y and Z coordinating.
Exactly. So you don't have to connect your computer to it, but I would suggest that you do. You just plug in your PC to the printer with a little USB cable. Not only will their Cura software that comes with it alert you of any firmware updates for the printer, which is a very good thing that you and one of the reasons why you should plug it in when you first get it, but you also get a lot of customization options. So you can control the axis. You can pause a print if you wanted to. If you're really monitoring a print and you need to pause it, you can do that. You can change the temperature settings and a lot of other different things. You can change the model that you're working with. So there's a lot of different settings that Cura will allow you to change inside your computer as opposed to just on that SD card.
So that's like more of a convenience thing between prints. Like you wouldn't be halfway through a print and be like, I'm gonna change the Z axis. Is it the Z axis? The Y axis?
What are those?
I have trouble. You wouldn't like pull the print head away from the extruder in the middle of a print.
I would not suggest that at all. If you do need to change the color filament or change out the filament so you get a different color, you might want to do that, but you would pause the print. So just don't do it while it's moving. I would say Cura has a learning curve, and you can see Cura over on my computer right here. There's a lot of terminology that's inside their software, which comes with it for free. It's very inside baseball, and it's kind of hard to understand.
All slicers are inside baseball.
It's very, So like spaghetti infill, what's that? Like you don't know. Luckily, it gives you a description, but sometimes it's very inside baseball. Like what is infill? So the infill is what happens inside the 3D print to give it structure. So if you're going to hang something off of this like Sailor Moon print that I did, which I got off of Thingiverse, thank you very much, then you would probably want better infill than leaving it completely empty and hollow. So things like that are kind of hard to understand.
Well, the other thing is if you leave it empty, by the time you get to the top, right, because you think of it like I'm doing a Sailor Moon thing, right?
Yeah, it would totally fall down.
It would fall down, right? So you need infill, but if you make it solid, it takes forever to fill all of that space.
And you're going to waste a lot of your filament too. So once you've got your firmware updated, I would suggest just going through the tabs and studying the terms before changing any of the settings, or just stick to the defaults. That's what I've been doing. I change a few settings here and there, like the infill, for example, but mostly you can just keep it the same. One thing that I like is that it can handle many different types of filaments. So you can use ABS, PLA, you can use wood-filled if you want to, because there is wood-fill. Metal like bronze and copper, there's nylon, there's luminescent ones, there's glow-in-the-dark ones, there's a coffee filament, which does smell like coffee. I've tested it. It's really cool. So the list just goes on, and luckily they list out a bunch of the really popular ones just in the application, so you don't have to figure out all the settings yourself. It comes in a huge box. It's very easy to assemble.
Well, it's mostly already
assembled.
Too.
Most of it is already assembled. You just like screw in a few screws and you're good to go. The printer and its firmware are completely open source too, and I love that about LulzBot. Their entire company is open sourced, and I respect them so much for doing that, because that's very, very hard to do, is to open source your entire company, including the software that you use inside your company. So you could basically just like build your own 3D printer Taz 6 if you wanted to. But what you're paying for with that $2,500 is in-house manufacturing, testing of the printer, making sure that everything's good to go before they send it to you. Tech support, the Cura firmware that comes with it for free. They basically make it plug and play, and they give you a bunch of samples. It runs on Marlin firmware, which is also very popular with a lot of 3D printers. So that one gets updated too, with the last update being December of 2017. So you know that if you're getting this printer from them and you're getting that Marlin firmware, you're getting all those good updates. So far, I haven't noticed many flaws with the printer. It works really gracefully. It works every single time that I've used it, with every type of filament that I've used, of which I don't honestly have many. I have this little pile right here, but I'm hoping to go to Maker Faire next week, or next month.
I have 8 different colors of PLA at home.
You should bring them in.
Yes, you can have my PLA for free.
Yay!
No.
I'll buy it from you. So it is rather loud. It is a little bit loud. I did notice on some of the prints like this one, I'll get an up-close shot for you, that there's a few places where it must have clogged and squirted out a little bit too much at the same time. So you get a little bit of a hill there, but it's nothing that I couldn't
Sometimes it's
sand
the head
down.
lift when it pulls the head up.
Exactly.
To drop it down.
It might have gotten a little bit too much of the plastic out, the filament out of the extruder at the wrong time. But that's something that I can sand down, and for the most part, like without doing any sanding, this is a really good quality print. I'm intrigued, and now I'm thinking like, what else can I do? Can I open an Etsy shop? This would be fun. It is a little loud though. Of course, one of my coworkers even said, like, can you put it in the closet? Because it's a little bit too loud. I do think the Cura software could be a little bit more noob friendly, but overall it's a very reliable printer. It's a reliable firmware, a safe experience with a 3D printer as opposed to something that's going to blow up or cause a fire, which is excellent.
I mean, I've used some pretty jank 3D printers, and I'm thinking specifically of a friend of mine's homemade one in the early days.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt that you were at personal risk when using a 3D printer?
No, but
I mean, I've burned myself on it.
But a lot of the problems that 3D printers have are with the cables and them not being heat resistant as they should be, or not having that the wear resistance from them moving back and forth over a long period of time. That something like the Taz 6 does have built in.
I think, I mean, anything from a real company these days should actually.
They should.
Should be.
I think that it's a really good tool for makerspaces, for schools, major hobbyists, people that are selling things, but it's probably too expensive for somebody who wants to just make cutesy things because they can. I would be the cutesy things because we can type of person, but I more fall into the educational space with the videos that I do with a 3D printer. So I want to teach people how to use it as opposed to just use it for, you know, Sailor Moon stuff like this one. And I did want to give a shout out to my friend because he was the one that brought me introduced into this world. He does this website called PrintedSolid.com. That's Dave Randolph's website. And I got the Sailor Moon really cool design from this guy named Awesome A on Thingiverse. So thank you both because I'm really, really enjoying 3D printers. It's a good experience. It's a learning curve, but it's so much fun once you get into it.
And before anybody emails, yes, it is the same Dave Randolph I used to co-host System with.
Yes, it is.
And font of 3D printing information that man is.
Let us know what you think, or if you have any questions about 3D printers, because I love 3D printers. They're so much fun. So you can email me, ask@TekThing.com, or you can tweet @Snubs.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I was going to tell you one thing about Dell's new Ultrathin S 24 and 27-inch monitors, it is not that they're some of the brightest monitors ever seen, or that they've got an expanded color gamut like 85% of DCI-P3, which is better than a lot of 2017 HDR UHD TVs. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's insane.
Oh my goodness. Nor that they feature Dell's wee tiny infinity edge bezels. I mean, they're tiny. They're tiny. Those are all nice features, but the thing that really excites me today is that they have a matte finish on the screen itself.
Yay!
I mean, okay, I get it. We're excited.
I am.
It's not even that rare on desktop monitors, but I've been staring at a very, very shiny laptop screen for the last few days. It reflects everything, and the matte finish was a really nice change.
Especially if you want to take like your giant monitor outside, which I know everybody does. Looks a lot better outside whenever you have a matte screen.
Just saying. Laptop manufacturers, if you'd like to do more matte screens, we're down with it.
I'm okay with this.
Go for that. I was actually also shocked. I have a 27-inch, like 2560 by 1440 monitor on my desk in the kitchen, because that's where my desk is. And I was amazed at how much less space the Ultrathin takes up compared to my old 27-inch desktop monitor with its giant, like 2-inch bezel on it. It really is ultra thin at the edges, where it's 5.5 millimeters thin, and it ramps up to a somewhat heftier 29 millimeters towards the middle where the mount is.
Okay.
These are 60 hertz monitors, and Dell kept things pretty simple on the back. You can switch between the two HDMI sources on the Ultrathin, and there's a 3.5 millimeter audio jack which passes through HDMI audio. And yes, the volume controls on your keyboard or your operating system will control the volume coming out of that jack in the back.
Yay!
But if your cable's too short, you'll be like this.
Yeah.
So it's
not good.
I was testing with a set of earbuds.
Get an extension.
Yeah, I was kind of like this with my earbuds connected in. Before you ask, there are no onboard speakers, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a plus because speakers and monitors suck. So that's all well and good, but it's not really the part you stare at, right? Well, the screen itself is pretty impressive. Dell used Corning's Iris glass in the panel that helped to make a thinner display with, more importantly, more consistent lighting. No bright spots. That was really, really nice. The colors, very, very accurate, and there are a lot of them. To get more sciencey, we're talking about 99% sRGB color coverage and greater than 85% DCI-P3, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a much broader color gamut than a lot of 4K HDR TVs that are being sold right now. The marketing on these panels pushes Dell's cinema color, brighter whites, deeper blacks, richer colors. That's my marketing voice, which sounds a lot like HDR, which makes sense. This monitor supports HDR content playback.
Yay.
So the S2719DM is VESA DisplayHDR 400 certified, which is the bare minimum for actually getting some kind of HDR feel out of HDR content. And if you're wondering who VESA is, well, and DisplayHDR for that matter, VESA is the company that does the VESA mounts. They do monitor standards, and DisplayHDR is VESA's spec to standardize HDR claims by monitor manufacturers. And by the way, should you want to plug a 4K UHD Blu-ray player into the monitor, it should be good to go with HDMI 2.0 and HDCP 2.2, but I didn't spend several $100s to buy a Blu-ray player to test this.
Oh, why not?
Because I don't
Several
have
$100s? Yeah.
Well, a couple hundred. In any case, I don't have a 4K monitor at home. Dell claims 600 nits brightness, but when you dig through the fine print, that's kind of a peak figure when you're running HDR content. Figure like 400 candelas per meter squared or 400 nits in normal desktop use, which is actually really bright for a monitor. 60 hertz refresh rate, so this is not a elite gamer monitor, but most folks should enjoy gaming on it. I did because the colors are really nice.
And it also doesn't come with like NVIDIA or AMD's
no
fancy
G-Sync, no FreeSync.
Okay.
It is a 60 hertz HDMI monitor. You can drop the pixel response time down to 5 milliseconds. That's fast mode, down from the normal 8 milliseconds. If you feel that you need that extra 3 milliseconds because your responses are so freaking fast. This is me mocking myself and most of my gaming friends. I have one massive complaint. There are no height adjustments.
Oh no.
Yeah, it tilts 21 degrees up, 5 degrees down. This is pretty normal on consumer monitors because it's less expensive to do a mount with a swivel than it is to do a mount with a swivel and an up and down.
That's why we love those VESA mounts.
Yeah, well, the thing is the mount's built into this one, which makes it easy to set up, but you can't pull the mount off and put a VESA mount on it.
Oh.
Yeah. I will admit I've only mounted a monitor on a VESA mount twice in my life, but that option does not exist with this ultra-thin monitor. Currently for sale right now, 27-inch 2560 by 1440, the S2719DM we reviewed, currently selling for $350. The 24-inch 1080p S2419HM is a modest $210.
Not
These
bad.
are really good looking monitors.
Yeah, those are good prices too.
Yeah, and if your monitor is 5+ years old, you might want to be thinking about something new. Not because it's going to crap out, but like when you put your, like, in my case, like 6-year-old monitor next to a brand new monitor and you're like, one of these things
is not like the other. If you have any questions about monitors, you can send them over Patrick's way at Patrick Norton or at TekThing, or you can email us at tekthing.com.
We love monitors. We love your questions, your tips, and your suggestions of products and ideas to check out. Ask@tekthing.com, like Shannon just said, is the place to send them. Or you can tweet at TekThing, at Snubs, or at Patrick Norton. And a big shout out to our patrons at patreon.com/TekThing. You pay the bills, you make the show possible, and frankly, you keep my family fed, and we appreciate that because we like food. Thank you, patrons. Join the crew that makes TekThing happen at patreon.com/TekThing. We got an email from Kemas who writes, I was wondering about privacy-centric search engines. I've been using DuckDuckGo for a couple of months and it's almost a great tool. Are there better alternatives endorsed by the InfoSec community? I found swisscows.ch and searchencrypt.com. What would you recommend as an alternative to Google for people into privacy? Keep up the good work. Best regards, Kemas.
All right, so if you haven't checked out DuckDuckGo before, it's over at duckduckgo.com. It looks like this. It's got a cute, friendly little duck on there. And if I Google, or if I search something like Hack5, it goes up pretty quickly and we get this one, hack5.org, and hack5gear, hackshop.com. So what I would expect to receive from DuckDuckGo. So it's fast, it has an application, which is very nice. You have a question.
What makes it private?
So I'm glad you asked, actually. If we go over to their privacy settings here, they don't collect or share personal information. So this would be
cool.
information about your browsing history, it would be user data, it would be IP address, stuff like that is what they do not collect. But the con side of DuckDuckGo includes that they partnered with Yahoo to have features like date filtering of results and additional site links. It also partners with Bing, Yandex, and Wikipedia to produce results or make use of the features that they offer with it. So the company did also confirm that it does not share user information with partner companies, and that's always been their policy. But I should also mention that DuckDuckGo is also based out of the US, which is a part of the Five Eyes. When I was doing some search results though, if you're just looking for something fast, that might be secure. It's 1.2 seconds to load a search for Hack5, and I'll do some comparisons of the other ones that I found as well. So since you mentioned what does the InfoSec community recommend, I asked my friends over on Twitter, because I'm part of that InfoSec community. I said, InfoSec friends, I use DuckDuckGo. What search engine do you use when you want search history to be completely anonymous? And I got some really great replies from a lot of people. For example, my friend April Wright said, call me cynical, but I tend to think there's no such thing as completely anonymous anymore. VPNs, DuckDuckGo, VM, private encrypted DNS, burner phones, hijacked Wi-Fi, all may help, but just like zero risk doesn't exist, 100% anonymity does not exist. And I kind of agree with her, but I was just like, I'm just doing a review for TekThing, so maybe I should just say not completely anonymous, but anonymous.
And I will say, as much as I get going for privacy, if you're doing certain kind of searches, for example, 6.2 diesel, I don't know, name a part, like injection pump. The thing that Google does that is so much better than almost every privacy-oriented search engine I've ever used is filtering out the spammy websites that are relinking sales links back to parts sales websites.
Very, very true.
For example.
And that is a problem that you're going to experience with any of these. But if you don't mind that, or if you are just looking for straight up privacy and security conscious companies, then there are a few samples that my InfoSec community friends recommended. So off of what I asked them on Twitter, they gave me 3 different recommendations, and the first one is StartPage, which you can check out on my computer. It is over at startpage.com, and I'll just Google something. So I keep on saying Google. You can search for something so you can see a comparison, and this does bring up very reliable and trusted websites as the first ones that you see. So our social networks, our .com site, and stuff like that. The thing with StartPage, though, is it was originally started in New York, but it was acquired by a Dutch company early on. So now they are based in the Netherlands and Europe. So according to the StartPage website, they were awarded the first European privacy seal, and it's also the first and only EU-approved search engine. But this one does take longer than DuckDuckGo, might be because of where they're located. It's 1.91 seconds to load a search for Hack5 on my network with the same
2
example.
seconds for a search result.
I know, 2 seconds. Oh my goodness. The next one is SearX. At least I believe that's how you're supposed to pronunciate it correctly. It's SearX.me, and when I was actually Googling for this link, it brought up a bunch of Sears on Google Maps. So maybe their SEO is not that great. But I'll just do a little search so you can see what it looks like whenever I pull up. Yes, it's very quick. I was very happy with that. However, it wasn't fast every single time. The interesting thing about SearX is that it's a more advanced open source search engine that aggregates data from a bunch of other search engines and then sends them to you. So it doesn't allow you to have a profile or personal data on the site, but you can set preferences if you want to, which will be erased with, like, if you erase your cookies. You can run your own instance of SearX, which is kind of like the social network Mastodon that I had reviewed on Hack5 a while back.
A social network of one person.
Yeah, so
is that still a social network?
It's a thing. There were a lot of people on Mastodon.
Several
Thank
people.
you very much. This maximizes your privacy. It can help with slowdowns on public instances if somebody else is running an instance of SearX that is very slow. However, in my findings, SearX was the slowest one out of the bunch at 2.26 seconds to load a search for Hack5. However, I did like that they had all those preferences built in. And the last one that I wanted to check out is called Quant. At least I think that's how you pronounce that one.
Sounds good.
Pronounce that one. So Quant is over at quant.com, and this is based in France, and as such it also falls under that European jurisdiction. Now you can register and you can create an account to save preferences, and this does require that some data, like your username, be saved. So if you want it to be anonymous, just don't set up a username account and just use it on a VPN, for example. But this one took 1.41 seconds to load a search from Hack5, so it was very comparable with StartPage and DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo, your primary search engine?
Yeah, DuckDuckGo is the one that I primarily use. I still use Chrome for most of my browser information, but when I'm on my phone. I just found out DuckDuckGo has an app, so I want to switch to DuckDuckGo, but right now I've been using Brave, which is also a privacy-friendly browser.
I like Brave.
I love Brave, yeah, it's one of my favorites. I'm really big into looking at different privacy-conscious applications and software and browsers, for example. So if you are really interested in learning more, or if you have a recommendation for me, ask@tekthing.com is the place to go. Definitely email those. I do read all of them, or at TekThing or at Snubs on Twitter.
Jim writes, ask@tekthing.com. I am looking to declutter and trying to decide what to do with my hard media, my DVDs and my CDs. I can't remember the last time I actually used hard media besides gaming. I'm having a hard time parting with all my DVDs, but they don't get used. I'm thinking about getting a NAS, and I have a few questions. 1, is it even worth converting DVDs to digital in regards to quality and time? If so, what software would you recommend? 2, if I decide to go this route, do you have a NAS you can recommend for under $400? Is there a good way to back up a large amount of data like you would have on a NAS? 3, what NAS software would you recommend for the NAS for movies and music? Thank you so much for your time. Love the show. Jim.
Thank you, Jim. And yes, I have a recommendation for you. It's MakeMKV over at MakeMKV.com. It is freeware, and you can download this currently in beta for free if you want to burn Blu-rays. Eventually, they say it will cost money, but so far it doesn't. I love using this software. It's really, really good. I run it on my home computer that has a Blu-ray burner in it. So I highly recommend it for digitizing DVDs, Blu-rays, and CDs. I just finished ripping like 250 or so DVDs and Blu-rays at home, and it's very fast, it's reliable. You can choose which data you want to back up, which is great. So if you don't want to back up like every single video file on a DVD, you can choose. It can also back up languages and subtitles, which is excellent for anime. So I can make copies that have the subtitles built in, or that are in English if I need to, or in Japanese, or whatever I want.
That's one of the big questions when you start backing up movies. For example, our friend Robert Heron has backed up made an ISO of the entire disc because he wants to have access to everything that was on the original disc.
Yeah.
Other times, if you want to save a lot of space, you choose your language. You can do just the movie, just the languages you want to keep. MakeMKV, amazing free tool for Blu-rays and DVDs. Not my choice for CD ripping, but at this point, you may just use it just because it's already in your system.
There you go.
And it's free. As far as DVD quality time and encoding go, or like quality time versus encoding, I would skip the movies I love that are already out on Blu-ray and just buy the Blu-ray. Then I'd rip the DVD movies I loved that aren't out on Blu-ray. After that, once you've done like a dozen or a couple hundred discs, it should be really easy to decide if you want to bother with the rest of the DVDs that you don't really care about, because chances are you have a bunch of DVDs that you're like, well, I watched that once.
Yeah.
Both of us have Synology NAS boxes at home. 2 really good options you can look at is the DiskStation DS218. That's 2 bays without hard drives. It'll run you about $250. And stepping up to a 4-drive NAS like the DiskStation DS418, that costs around $370 without drives. But 4 bays will give you better data protection and more storage. It also costs more and needs more drives. And when you're shopping for these, don't forget to look at drives. And we would say Western Digital, probably Reds.
Yeah. I actually need to buy some new hard drives because the ones that I have in my Synology NAS, they finally failed after like 5 years of use.
Oh my goodness.
So it's been a while. They need an upgrade. I just haven't put the cash down for new hard drives.
Oh my goodness. Well, nice thing is like drives have gotten really inexpensive, but you might probably want to do the math on the drives because a 1 terabyte drive is $65. Doubling the capacity is another $20. Tripling the capacity from that 1 terabyte is less than twice the cost of the 1 terabyte drive. I feel like 4 terabytes is a real sweet spot, and around 6 terabytes, they start getting expensive again.
Okay, good to know.
Also make sure the drives will actually work in your NAS because it sucks to buy a bunch of really huge drives and then realize you can't run them.
They do have a compatibility list on Synology's website.
It's nice.
Yes.
Either of those boxes should be fast enough to handle transcoding for most devices, and most NAS boxes have some kind of DLNA media server or the ability to add Plex as an extra, a side load. NAS is great for storing your ripped movies, but backing up, one way to do that, for me, I use Backblaze. They actually have what they call their B2 cloud storage, which is not unlimited for a flat fee like the regular Backblaze is. You pay for sort of the amount of data you stuff up into the cloud, but it's really, really cheap. But you don't want to have like 14 terabytes of stuff disappear one day.
Yeah.
I keep all of my old discs because most of them are CDs.
Yeah.
Did you keep your discs after?
Nope. I got rid of them as soon as I made those digital versions, and I ended up backing everything up so I wouldn't lose the digital versions. But yeah, I gave them away or donated them.
But you kept the media.
I kept the media.
I'm waiting for the police to knock on the door. As we're wrapping up the show, AMD's latest Ryzen CPUs dropped last week. Think evolution, not revolution on these. The Ryzen 7 2700X, slightly faster than the 1800X I run in my beast at home. There's still definitely a better performance per dollar option than Intel with multi-core performing applications or multi-core application performance. By the way, this pains me, but the Ryzen 7 2700X, which is slightly faster than the 1800X, is $329. That's compared to the $499 last year's flagship, my beloved Ryzen 7 1800X debuted at. Our friends over at PCPro.com have an excellent full-scale frontal awesome analysis of joy. I don't know what that description means, but it means they did a good job. Hi, Ken. Of the 2700 and 2600X. So go AMD.
We also got some excellent responses in response to our segment about DNS last week. At DevNull tweeted, read the DNS topic. I have been running my own caching DNS server on my LAN since the screensavers was a thing on TekThing. And while there is an initial performance hit for the first lookup, the overall benefit can be very worth it. A bit more work, but not hard to set up. And we also got a tweet from @Oodsway. Oodsway, I like your name. He tweeted, hi guys, came across this info on setting up DNS over TLS from Tom Lawrence Tech and Netgate USA at pfSense. So basically what Oods is doing is setting up DNS over a TLS encrypted connection on a pfSense router, which is totally possible and very cool to do. And he also goes on to say,
he confirmed that 1.1.1 and 9.9.9 are both working for me, and I am able to confirm each in states table and with DNSSEC tests as per your tests.
Cool.
Or DNSSEC tests.
So it works.
It works!
Yay.
We like it when it works.
And we got a tweet from Dan who said, @TekThing, loved your discussion of Cloudflare DNS and would love to hear your take on @Quad9 DNS on a future show. So what is Quad9?
Quad9.net. There's some big names in security. Community-driven internet security, right? So if you go to the first page on that, I thought this was fascinating. IBM in collaboration with Packet Clearinghouse, in collaboration with Global Cyber Alliance, which makes me think like we're watching the opening to a movie. In any case, if you run Quad9, every time your browser does a DNS query, Quad9 checks the site against an IBM X-Force threat intelligence that includes 800 plus terabytes of threat intelligence data, including 40 billion plus analyzed web pages and images and 17 million spam and phishing attacks that are monitored daily.
Ugh. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of nefarious activity on the internet. So if the website you're going to is naughty or problematic, you get an NX domain response, which means your browser acts like the domain does not exist, and all of the subdomains underneath it. Quad9, well, they're mostly about security. They're also down with privacy. Quote, no personally identifiable information is collected by the system. IP addresses of end users are not stored to disk or distributed outside of the equipment answering the query in the local data center, which is good. Quad9 is a not-for-profit organization dedicated only to the operation of DNS services. There are no other secondary revenue streams for personally identifiable data, and the core charter of the organization is to provide secure, fast, private DNS.
Cool.
Yeah, actually.
Sounds very cool. I kind of want to use it now.
It brings us also back to our Vienna. I had no idea it existed, and once again, y'all have educated us.
Yes, thank you everyone for your responses about DNS, and we can do further episodes on DNS if you would like. Just let us know what you would like us to discuss on the show. And I would also like to give a huge quick shout out to Hack5 over at hack5.org for the studio space. If you want to, you can check out Hack5 gear and check out all the security and privacy podcasts that we do over on that channel on hack5.org and youtube.com/hack5. So thank you, Hack5.
And remember, once in a while, put down the phone, step away from the screen, close the laptop, and do something analog, like check your water meter to make sure your plumbing isn't leaking, so that your beloved eldest child understands that leaving the hose bib on in the back of the house means you're wasting water, potentially hundreds of gallons each and every year. I don't like it when the water's being wasted.
No.
We pay for that stuff, you know. What you got?
Oh, this is a sound dampening panel from Aralex. It's so beautiful. So guess what? If you're complaining about the audio, we understand, and we are getting there. And this is part of the process. I'm very excited to hang these up. You'll see more probably next week, I'm thinking.
Well, you won't see them because they'll be up there.
Yeah, but we'll show them B-roll video of you mounting them.
Yep, me with a
That's
power
the plan.
drill. Thrilling
Yay!
YouTube content.
I'm so excited.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing. So now we just need to get these for your house to stop the first order reflections from just ruining the music coming out of your speakers in the living room. You need more panels.
So if I speak in...
Diffusion.
Whoa! Whoa! That's so crazy. Hello! 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 That's so weird.
That's sound dampening in action.
Look how beautiful it is on the back.
Here, keep talking.
Why?
Just keep talking.
Okay. Hey everybody, my name is Shannon Morse. Welcome to this episode of TekThing. Today I'm going to be, oh, that's weird. It sounded completely different. Ah! That's so crazy. And we're going to, whoa. There's, yeah, big echo difference.
Everybody makes fun of sound dampening until you hang it, and then all of a sudden, believers.
I'm so excited about this.
Not as excited as I am.
Believers! That's what they call Justin Bieber fans, right? Believers. I don't even know.